to all political parties 1 month before the election. That's the first step. The second step is take back the law that allows the destruction of CCTVs, CCTV footage. Very simple, not difficult. While you're doing that, also tell us what is the architecture of the EVM. Give us access to the EVM. Let our experts go and see what is inside the EVM. Till today, we have not had access to the EVM. We are not shown the architecture of the EVM. We're not physically allowed to go and see an EVM. Give us the architecture. Give us access to the EVM. And finally, please change the law that allows the election commissioner to get away with whatever he wants to do. That's all the electoral reforms you need. And I want to assure the election commissioner that they might be under the impression that this law lets them get away with it. Let me remind them, don't worry, we are going to change the law, and we are going to change it retroactively, and we are going to come and find you. Right? So this is the situation that the country is faced with. You know, everybody says to us, India is the biggest democracy. Actually, I was thinking today, we're not just the biggest democracy, we're the greatest democracy. And I'm not saying it just like that. I'm saying it, America calls itself the oldest democracy. But the democracy that weaves together the largest number of people, the largest diversity of people, the largest number of languages, the largest number of states is this. And so our most powerful asset, the thing that stitches together the entire concept of modern India, stitches together the fabric of modern India, brings people together, allows them to build this great nation, is being attacked by these people. They're destroying it. You know they're destroying it, I know they're destroying it, and they know they're destroying it. And I'd like to conclude by saying that the biggest anti-national act you can do is vote chori. There is no bigger anti-national act that you can do than vote chori. Because when you destroy the vote, you destroy the fabric of this country. You destroy modern India, you destroy the idea of India. So I'd like to conclude by saying vote chori is an anti-national act, and those across the aisle are doing an anti-national act. Thank you.
With Air Corporations, the regulation starts with Air Corporations Act of 1953. That was the time when they decided that the airfares need to be regulated. There was a committee which was there and which was looking into all the regulations and the capping of fares and deciding what the tariff should be. But then in 1994, it was decided that the aviation sector should be deregulated. And it was deregulated, that idea that came up, and then the Air Corporations Act was repealed in 1994. And the idea behind the deregulation at that time was to allow the sector to grow. Open sky was mentioned because there was so much demand and potential in the country, and considering the global way of how civil aviation was observed across the world, all the countries who have seen exceptional growth in their own country in civil aviation, they had deregulated markets. The deregulation of markets, one, lets the sector open up for many players to come in, and it also encourages competition at the same time. When you are saying deregulation, you are letting the market dynamics flow in, you are letting the market supply and demand play its own role, so that the ultimate benefit is got by the passenger who is taking the ultimate benefit. So it is with that idea in 94 itself, the deregulation has happened, and from then we have seen that multiple airlines have come in and multiple challenges for airlines. Some have gone out and new airlines have come in. But the idea still remains that if the civil aviation network, the aviation sector, if it needs to grow, the first and foremost thing is to keep it deregulated so that the competition survives, more players can come in. Madam, and coming back to the whole deregulation aspect, Even though I'm saying that the market is deregulated, let me also come to the fact that according to the Aircraft Act that we have right now, there is power with the central government that in extraordinary circumstances, when there is a possibility that there is a misuse of the air tariff deregulation that we have set up, then there is the power with the central government to interfere and set things right, to cap the fares so that the passenger does not experience opportunistic pricing at that point of time. And one of the example for that, a good example there would be COVID. And you have seen how much of a challenge it has been during COVID for aviation on one side and also for the passengers because of the mismatch in the supply and demand at that time. And it is at that time the government decided to step in, and based on the timing, the time it takes to travel from point A to point B, certain categories were created, and according to the categories, the central government exclusively used its power to cap the fares, and it has done it. And not only at that time, that was not the only example of when the government has stepped in and looked after the passenger and looked after the airfares in the market. There is another example that I would like to give, which is of the Mahakumbh. We have seen that there was extraordinary demand for people across the country and outside the country also who wanted to go to Prayagraj at that time. And because of the sudden surge in demand and the capacity being same as what it was before, there was a huge rise in airfares at the time. So what the government did at that time was to cap the fares which were going to Prayagraj. That was the second instance. And the third instance, when we have seen in Pahalgam, when the attack happened at that time, and Srinagar, especially this is a different kind of situation where people were trying to come out of Srinagar. So it was at that time, again, to facilitate for the people and the passengers who were coming out. We observed that there was a necessity for government to interfere. We exclusively used the power, and we have capped the fares again. While keeping the market deregulation intact, because the whole idea of open sky needs to be there for competition to survive, whenever it was necessary in those extraordinary circumstances, the government has used its power. And recently also we have seen during the Indigo crisis where there was a capacity constraint. There were many cancellations. There were many routes where the airlines was not able to operate, because of which there was a capacity constraint. So again, it was observed that if we don't interfere, there could be a rise in airfares. Immediately we have stepped in, we have released an order, and this time we have done the categories based on the distance, and clearly we have communicated to the airlines that there has to be a capping in airfares. I'm mentioning the point saying that because the government has the exclusive power in extraordinary circumstances when they feel that the airfares are rising above the normal and becoming abnormal, then we are taking up that step. Another initiative that we have taken. This ministry is continuously connected to the people and listens to the people, takes feedback from the people. And that has been the complete approach of this government, especially under the leadership of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. Alliance Air, still a government entity. It is running ATRs across the country. It is especially running the most important routes in the Northeast area, and also many different destinations where it might not be viable for different players to come in. Government has taken it upon itself to run those routes so that the people in those areas also get connectivity. The new initiative, the experiment we have started, this was very recently in October we have started with Alliance Air, was Fare Se Fursat. We wanted to see, because there is a lot of discussion on capping of fares, let us see if we can cap the fares to a certain extent, what kind of benefit it is being given to the ultimate consumer or the passenger, and how is the viability of the airlines. So this special initiative that we have done, which is Fare Se Fursat, which is a pilot project for 3 months, Alliance Air, more than 54 routes it is operating in the country. We have selected certain 25 routes where the demand is good, some where the viability not be good. So 25 routes across the country, both Northeast, South India, northern part of India, West, East. We have taken up all operations, 25 routes we have earmarked. And in these 25 routes, we have fixed up the fare for that route. And now, in these 3 months, it is still ongoing until December 31st, this Fare Se Fursat scheme is going on. And we want to observe. Now, if I have capped the fares, how is it benefiting the passenger is one? Because there are many other things which are involved. This is a not single-way solution that you are observing that the fares are up and you cap the fares or you make them limited to a certain extent, and the ultimate benefit is going to the passenger, because it is not just that one travel for that passenger. There is a sector here. There is the viability of the airlines. There is an airport that is operating. There are multiple levels in civil aviation for the passenger to go from point A to come out at point B. There are multiple different sectors which are continuously like a symphony working in tandem so that the passenger can go from one place to other. And it is important for us to ensure this whole tandem, the whole connectivity that is there in between, everything is viable in its operations. So that is why the Fare Se Fursat scheme is there. Government is very closely observing how the feedback on this, especially this scheme, and how the passengers are responding to it. So once that is done, definitely we are going to sit down, observe the feedback, and then if necessary, consider this with the private airlines also. And some other measures that we are doing, because this capacity constraint, usually, madam, if you see, I have statistics also to prove that, when we are comparing the airfares of the country with airfares in different other places, especially internationally, the rate of growth that we have seen in the airfares is actually negative. In relative terms, in real terms, there has been 43% decrease in the airfares when you consider the consumer price index also. So if you compare with US or China, US it has decreased at 23%, China 34%, but India, the decrease has been up to 43% in relative terms when you compare with the consumer price index and the inflation also that has happened. So if you compare your own tariffs from previous years, previous decades, we have been maintaining a certain sort of level which is still affordable for the people. But in those terms also, when do you observe this airfares rise? It is not that every day they are rising, you see an increase in the fares. When these festive seasons are there, when there is a specific demand that originates in this location for most people to travel, and exactly the examples were also taken, Kerala during Onam, during Christmas, during that specific period, most of the people who are working in the Gulf area, they all want to come back and visit their families in that time. There is a specific season that you see that there is a huge capacity that is going to be there, and those are the routes, specific routes also you can see that this is where the airfares are rising because of the demand that originates. And then you see in the North India, sometimes during the Durga Puja, the Calcutta routes are on a surge. During Diwali area, the whole northern sector, that is on a rise. And also during Chhat Puja, whatever is going to Bihar, that is on a rise. These are all specific seasons. It is not that I can cap a fare for the entire season, entire year to a certain sector, because there are still, this is why market demand and market supply is very, very important for us to understand. They kind of play in such a way that they regulate the fares on its own. But when we observe, because we also know that there are seasons, because we also know there are capacity constraints in those seasons, we have reacted accordingly. When this Kerala situation observed, and after me becoming the minister also, this was exactly in September of 24, when the Kerala, the Gulf and the Kerala routes, when we observed that, see, what else can we do? What else can we do in this time so that we can facilitate for the people who want to travel and can keep the fares at a very adjustable price? Then we added capacity. We have spoken to the airlines well in advance. We have said this is a situation which is happening every year. More flights which were not operating or non-viable routes across the country, they were taken out. They were brought into this specific sector so that that can facilitate for the demand that it was created. And on top of Onam, during this Kumbh Mela also, everyone wanted to travel to Prayagraj. So we have increased the flights that are going to Prayagraj. So not only capping the fare, but the capacity needs to be augmented. That is the real solution when you are seeing that the fares are rising. Because there is demand there. It is not that you want to send that single passenger in a very adjustable price. You want to send 10 passengers to that place during that specific time. So capacity augmentation is something which is very much required, and we have done that. Kerala during the Onam, and Diwali during Diwali also we have done recently in October 25, Prayagraj Kumbh Mela in Jan 25. So we have worked out this solution when we speak with the airlines before and consider the festive season and increase the capacity. And also, madam, we have to understand what goes into these airfares. I have talked about what some of the measures that we have taken, and also airfares is not a single entity. There are different charges that go into the airfare, and one of the most important one is the aircraft fuel. ATF goes up to 40%, 40 to 45% of the ticket price that you pay is because of the ATF. And the way ATF is there in the country, the state taxes the ATF. And there are multiple states who have brought it below 5%. We are very thankful to them. There are 26 states and union territories which have brought it down because they understand that even if you lose a small revenue in this taxation for the ATF, the kind of economic growth that it creates, the kind of growth aviation network creates for other industries is very, very important, and it is with that idea that it was being done. But there are some states which still have it at a very high percentage, and it is multiple times. Our predecessor, Scindia ji, is also here. He has written and spoken on this many times and written to chief ministers, and I've also taken that responsibility. I have written to chief ministers whenever I get the opportunity to meet them. I've spoken to them on this very specific issue to please bring down the ATF, because if you bring it down, then definitely that also helps the passenger and the cost that it takes. And we have done it with Bihar also. Bihar used to have 29%, but in June 25, they have responded and they have brought it below 4%. And there is one state, Tamil Nadu also, Manikamji is here. So I would take this opportunity through this discussion also to encourage the state government to bring it down as much as possible, not 4%, but bring it down to 1%, so that this benefit of the taxation also is being extended to the passenger at the end. And now this is the ATF. And when it comes to the DGCA measures, DGCA is also a very important regulator for us. It also looks after the safety. It also looked after the airlines and their operations. Now there is a tariff sheet which is being done by the airlines to see how are we going to charge. The tariff sheet mentions the minimum fare for a certain route, maximum fare for a certain route, and they have this bucket system where through buckets, they see how many seats are going to be allocated at a certain price. Not many would be knowing about this, but whenever you go to the website and you purchase a ticket, there is a clear tariff sheet that is mentioned there. But here the airlines also used to be doing their own chalaki. What they used to do, tariff sheet, because according to the law, they have to do it prominently somewhere, they have to display the tariff sheet. But we were also doing our own monitoring. We were checking where is the tariff sheet. But we used to go to the web page, and it used to take ages to look at it, where the tariff sheet it is. It is right at the bottom, and even the letters with which it was written was only, you can see it only if you use a binoculars. It was at that situation. Then we said this is not the purpose of through which the law has been kept. Then we have updated them. They have instructed them that whenever they open, the tariff sheet should be seen right in the front in big letters so that every passenger can see it. We have brought that change. We have monitored that change. Now the tariff sheet is thoroughly displayed. But not only tariff sheet. Now earlier there was the rule that the tariff sheet, there was a small clause which gave an advantage to the airlines that every day they can change the tariff sheet. ऐसा होगा तो कैसे होगा? आज का tariff sheet आज का बन रहा है, आज का ticket हमने ले लिया, कल का tariff sheet कल का बन रहा है, तो again it's not serving the purpose. Then we changed the clause. Then we changed the rule that was giving that clause, that measure, and we said, you won't change it every day. You won't change it every 24 hours. You will only change it every month, so that once the passenger sees at the head of the month, first week of the month, they have to give us the tariff